Hello, Mobius here with part 2 of my tutorial on how to effectively and easily collaborate on RPG Maker projects. So before we get into downloading things, we're going to set up our file system and structure a little bit. It'll make our lives a lot easier later down the roads. So if you're like me, you probably already have a folder like this called RPG Projects or something like that, where you have all of your projects stored. So if we open this up, we can see we already got a project in there. Great. So if you don't have that, I highly recommend you do this. It's going to make the setup of everything else a lot easier down the road. So once you've got that set up, go ahead and go to this page, which is where we'll actually download the plugin system. It's just a GitHub page. The link will be down in the description. There's a README down below that's going to give some instructions. You're welcome to read that if you want. But all we really need to do is just click the download zip button. And we're going to save this. We're not going to save it in any of our project folders. We're going to save it in our all projects folder, so it'll be at the same level as all of the rest of our projects. So we'll just go ahead and click save. All right, that downloaded. So now we just want to extract it right here. Okay, so we've got this, and before we do anything else, we're going to take one quick step. We're going to rename this and get rid of the master there and just call it the plugin system. And leave the name unchanged again because that's going to save you some trouble later on. So next thing we're going to do is we need two windows here. So I'm just going to pull up two of these guys and put them, whoops, get that guy back up, put them side by side. We'll go ahead and open up this guy, and then we'll open up our project folder as well. Okay, so there's a lot of files in here, and most of them you can just ignore. This is everything it needs to work, and you're not going to have to interact with them. But what we are going to do is we're going to go up here to default batch files, and you should see we have 6 of them. So 2 each for each major. So 2 for XP, 2 for ACE, and 2 for VX. Now I want to point out that for this tutorial I am going to be using RPG Maker XP, but the steps are virtually identical for all the other makers. So just anytime I say XP, substitute it with VX or ACE, and you'll be good to go. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to copy over the 2 batch files here that are for XP. And we'll go back up one level, and we'll go to the default config files, and we'll copy over the config file for our maker version as well. Alright, and so that's pretty much what we have set up. Now we are going to need to do a few more steps. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this first batch file that says start. We're going to edit it. So we'll open this up. And what we're going to come down is we're going to look at this. So if you set up your file structure the same way that I showed you, you can leave this totally unchanged. You can see we've got the name RMXP plugin system, and we got rid of the master, so that all matches. So because this is set up this way, if you've got your file structure set up the same way I do, you don't have to touch this at all. If you've got it set up some way differently, all this is you're going to be telling this batch file where to look for where your plugin folder is at relative to where the file is currently sitting. So these 2 dots mean go up 1 level and then go to this folder. So because this file is in our project 1 folder, which is in the same folder as the plugin system, we say go up 1, and then you'll find the RMXP plugin system. Then next we need to input our project name, and again, because we have this set up the same way, it says go up 1 level and then look for the project 1 folder. So this path is different. This is saying where is your project folder relative to the plugin folder. So again, if you keep the folder structure the same way that I showed you to set up, then all you have to do is make sure this name matches whatever you named it as. Hopefully you left the name alone. And then for this right here, project 1, all you have to do is match up whatever your project name. So in this case it is project 1, but if it wasn't, just highlight this section and type in whatever your project name is. And that's it. You're all done there. For this one, it's pretty much the same thing. So I'll edit this guy as well. You can see it looks exactly the same. So again, however you just set up the previous one, you would set this one up exactly the same with your project name and plugin path, all of that exactly identical. Okay, last thing you're going to set up is you're going to open up the config file, and I want to point out that this config file is set up where you don't have to touch it if you don't want to. Everything is set up to where it'll work. But if you want to do any kind of extra customization, you can pull this up and look at it. So I'll go real briefly over what this is. This directory is where are the files that RPG spits out. So if we'll take a look at this back, so it's saying data, And so again, this is the specialized data that RPG Maker puts out that you can't really look at normally. So that's where it's at. And so again, that should be pretty standard. Unless you've changed the name in your project folder, you'll have to change it. Otherwise, the default will work. Next, this is going to be where it's going to specify some output files that it does. And again, it's going to create these if you don't already have them, so you don't need to mess with them if you don't want to. The data ignore list is really only for some more advanced users, so for right now, let's just ignore that. Same thing for the rest of these options. Know that what the defaults are set are going to be working for you. We'll come back and visit these at a later date. Okay, so with that all working, we are all good to go with the setup that we need to do. Realize that if you have multiple projects, you're going to need to copy over these default batch files and default config files for each project. You'll need to put them in your project folder. And you'll need to set them up like we just did for each one. But again, if you have the folder structure set up like we did, you'll be able to skip a lot of those steps, and really you're just going to be opening up the two batch files and putting in what your project's name is. So that's going to do it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. We'll be covering downloading Ruby and getting that set up. I'll see you there.